Hi, welcome to the African World Channel. In a continent where many countries are tangled in a web of debt to international giants like the IMF and the World Bank, Captain Ibrahim Traore shines as a champion of financial wisdom and national pride for Burkina Faso. His decision to turn down the IMF's offer isn't just about money, it's a declaration of independence, showing he's committed to steering Burkina Faso towards a secure economic future. Remember to subscribe to our channel, give the video a thumbs up, and share it with others to help us reach a wider audience. Now let's get back to the video. Captain Ibrahim Traore, Burkina Faso's military leader, stands out among African leaders for his refusal to engage in the risky practice of borrowing massive sums from international organizations like the IMF and the World Bank. Traore has declined financial aid from the IMF, showcasing his commitment to safeguarding his nation's long-term interests. While many African leaders have fallen into debt traps due to loans with stringent conditions, Traore's steadfast stance aims to shield Burkina Faso from similar consequences. Traore's decision to decline financial assistance from the IMF is not merely a matter of fiscal policy but a bold assertion of Burkina Faso's sovereignty and self-determination. It reflects a deep-seated belief that relying on external loans with stringent conditions would compromise the nation's autonomy and long-term prosperity. By eschewing short-term gains in favor of long-term stability, Traore demonstrates visionary leadership that prioritizes the interests of his people over fleeting economic gains. Traore firmly believes that the IMF and the World Bank perpetuate economic oppression through their structured operations, keeping countries ensnared in perpetual debt. His bold decision to break away from this cycle demonstrates his dedication to prioritizing the well-being of his people above all else. Notably, Traore's rejection coincided with the Prime Minister of Burkina Faso delivering a televised lecture titled "No One Violates Freedom of Expression as Much as Westerners," underscoring the country's stance against Western interference in African affairs. During the address, Mr. Apollinaire Kailam provided insightful perspectives on why human rights policies often seem to apply uniquely to Africa, sparking further discussion and reflection. Traore's stance sends a powerful message to other African leaders grappling with similar economic challenges. It challenges the prevailing narrative that borrowing from international financial institutions is the only viable solution to spur economic growth. Instead, Traore's example suggests that there are alternative paths to development that prioritize self-reliance, prudent fiscal management, and strategic investment in domestic resources. Behind Traore's principled stand lies a critical assessment of the IMF and the World Bank's role in perpetuating economic inequality and dependency in Africa. He views these institutions as instruments of neocolonialism, imposing one-size-fits-all policies that often exacerbate poverty and hinder genuine development efforts. Traore's rejection of IMF assistance is thus a rejection of a system that he perceives as fundamentally flawed and exploitative. Traore's refusal to borrow from the IMF coincides with broader geopolitical dynamics shaping Burkina Faso's foreign policy orientation. The Prime Minister's televised lecture condemning Western interference in African affairs echoes sentiments of Pan-Africanism and anti-imperialism that have long resonated within the continent. It reflects a growing assertiveness among African nations to assert their sovereignty and challenge Western hegemony in global affairs. Mr. Apollinaire Kailam's insights during the Prime Minister's address further illuminate the complex dynamics of power and privilege that underpin Western interventions in Africa. By highlighting the hypocrisy inherent in Western discourses on human rights and democracy, Kailam invites critical reflection on the double standards that often characterize international relations. The IMF's loans to African countries often come with strings attached, subtly shaping the economic policies and decisions of these nations in several ways. The IMF typically imposes conditions on its loans, requiring borrowing countries to implement specific economic reforms and austerity measures. These conditions may include reducing government spending, privatizing state-owned enterprises, liberalizing trade, and deregulating financial markets. While these reforms are often framed as necessary for economic stability and growth, they can have detrimental effects on social welfare, employment, and income distribution within African countries. IMF's loans are often accompanied by policy advice and technical assistance provided by IMF staff or consultants. While this advice may be intended to support countries in implementing reforms, it can also reflect the IMF's own neoliberal ideology and preferences. As a result, African countries may end up adopting economic policies that align with the IMF's agenda rather than their own developmental priorities. IMF's loans can influence the governance structures and decision-making processes within borrowing countries. In order to access IMF financing, governments may be required to demonstrate commitment to economic reforms, often leading to centralized decision-making and bypassing of democratic institutions. This can undermine accountability and transparency, as policy decisions are made in consultation with international creditors rather than through inclusive and participatory processes. IMF's loans play a significant role in shaping the economic policies and decisions of African countries, often promoting neoliberal reforms that prioritize market-oriented solutions over social welfare and developmental objectives. This can perpetuate a cycle of dependency and undermine the sovereignty and autonomy of African nations in determining their own development paths. Feel free to explore the video description below for insights into the top 10 African countries with substantial debt owed to the IMF. Captain Ibrahim Traore's rejection of IMF assistance and Burkina Faso's stance against Western interference signal a broader shift in the geopolitical landscape of Africa. It reflects a growing awareness of the need for genuine economic empowerment and political autonomy in the face of persistent neocolonial pressures. Traore's leadership exemplifies a commitment to charting a new course for Burkina Faso, one that is rooted in self-determination, sovereignty, and solidarity with fellow African nations. We value your input. Do you believe that IMF loans have been beneficial or detrimental to African nations' development? What alternatives do you think African nations have to reduce their dependency on international financial institutions like the IMF? Please share your opinions in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share it with others. Thank you for watching.